Before the human people came, the bird people had a leader called Bellyshowin. He was very taken by himself and ruled the birds without mercy. He was arrogant, conceited, and very rude. That made him a very unlikable bird. Now Bellyshowin had a very beautiful daughter, and she was very much like her father, taken by herself, rude, arrogant, and conceited. When any of the birds came to ask for her wing in marriage, she always turned them down. She would say, "I'm far too good for you, silly bird. Just look at yourself, so unattractive, while I am most beautiful. I could never let myself be seen with the likes of you, you ugly buzzard." Well, those words angered most of the bird people, but certainly all of the buzzard tribe. Now those words even bothered her arrogant father. He thought perhaps his daughter may never marry. Bellyshowin asked, "Would you marry anyone? Is there not a bird anywhere that you like?" "Well, Mang, the loon, is the most handsome, but he is married," she said. Bellyshowin, with a twinkle in his eye, said, "Would he not take another wife if something happened to his present wife? If she died, he would have to get another wife." Then Bellyshowin and his daughter laughed together at the thought. "Well, my pretty one, let us have some fun with our people. A contest for the birds, but no one can win this contest except Mang," he said. "It will be a guessing game. No one but you and I know the name I gave you as my favorite, Kakanina Kachi, she who has the gifts, the name no one will guess to win you for his wife." "But I don't wish to marry any of these foul-looking birds," she said. "I want to marry Mang." Then she began to pout. "So you shall, my precious. I will fix it so no one can win but Mang. You will be his wife," said her father. "But Mang is already married. How can you fix it?" "Ah, daughter, you are so beautiful that Mang will take 2 wives. Soon he will become tired of the first wife, and he will give her back to her parents." The two went on with their plans far into the night. Next morning the contest was announced to the tribe. All the young birds gathered together, preening their feathers and thinking all kinds of names that might win them a wife of unbelievable beauty. Now Chachiskashi, Sandpiper, lived near the lodge of Chief Bellyshowin and his daughter. All the other birds laughed at Sandpiper because he was a funny little bird. He was always running around, following the water in and out as it washed upon shore. There he would eat the small things washed in by the waves. Chachiskashi never flew, but only when he had to. Then he did not fly very high, only if he had to. Many of the bird tribe would laugh and point, saying, "He is not of a right mind," as they watched him run back and forth with the movement of the water. They wondered, why does he do it? The answer was really simple. Chachiskashi, above all other things, hated to get his feet wet. He would run as fast as he could to keep the waves from washing over his dry little feet. Now on this morning the contest was announced. Chachiskashi watched a spider carried on the curl of a wave as it was tossed on shore. Running quickly to where the hairy creature was, to eat it, he was surprised to find the spider facing him on 8 bent knees. Spider was begging for his life. At that moment, Chachiskashi had a thought. "Spider, I promise not to eat you if you promise to do as I ask. What say you, Spider?" "Oh, great one, I will do whatever you ask if you will not have me for a meal." "Well," said Spider, "now you must do this for me. Go to the lodge of Bellyshowin, climb to the top, and using your web, lower yourself into the lodge. Hang around there on your web, and learn the name given to Chief Bellyshowin's daughter." Off at a run, as fast as his 8 hairy legs could carry him, ran Spider, giving thanks to Sandpiper and many thanks to the Great Spirit for saving him. Going to the lodge of Belly Showing, Spider used his thread to make a silky bed. Making himself comfortable in his new home, Spider waited. But though he stayed up listening most of the night, the arrogant girl's name was never mentioned. Now, trying to keep 8 sleepy eyes open is a hard thing to do. Soon the little hairy-legged Spider was fast asleep. The next morning, Spider awoke to the sound of voices. Below him sat Belly Showing and his daughter talking. The chief was saying, "Those silly birds, they will never guess your name is Kakanina Kachi. All Mang will have to do is guess a name, then he will win. No one will ever know, and you will have Mang." "Ha!" thought the Spider. "Not only is the chief a big, arrogant, bossy bird, he's also as crooked as a snake." Then off Spider went to tell Sandpiper all that he had heard, especially the name Kakanina Kachi. "So, her name is Kakanina Kachi. Well now, we'll have some fun," said Sandpiper. "Surely you're not going to marry that rude, arrogant, conceited bird, are you?" asked Spider. "No, but I surely do have a plan," answered Sandpiper. Then came the day of the guessing game. The most handsome of the birds all gathered in front of the chief's lodge. There was wood duck, eagle, raven, and snow goose. They thought there was none other as stunning as he. They stood around preening their feathers and giving a glance to see who was watching them. Oh, those birds were very vain. The chief, followed by his most beautiful daughter, came out of their lodge. "My people, let the name game begin." Looking at the group of the most handsome birds, Chief Belly Showing said, "Raven, you may go first. What is the name of my most precious one?" Brother Raven stepped forward. "I think her name is the Pretty One." "No, that's not it," said the chief. "Who's next?" Brother Eagle ruffled his feathers, clearing a way for him to walk. Holding his head high, Eagle said, "I think her name is Pretty Feather." "Wrong, that's not it either. Next," said Chief Belly Showing, with a smile and a wink at his daughter. I know her name," said Chachiskashi. "You, there in the back, you, Blue Jay. Come tell us your name for my pretty one," said the chief, ignoring the voice of Chachiskashi. Blue Jay brushed his topknot and tried hard to walk like Eagle. "Is it Fair Maid?" "Nope, you lose." "Oh, great chief, I would like to name your daughter," said Chachiskashi. Again his voice was ignored. Some of the other birds said rude things to him. Even the eagle said, "Why don't you run home, Chachiskashi? You could never guess her name, you silly bird." Well, all the birds took their turn at trying to name the girl. All but 2. That was Mang the loon. He stood to one side watching, as did Chachiskashi, who was never given a chance. "Mang, will you not try to guess my daughter's name?" asked the chief, ignoring Chachiskashi. "I have a wife. I need no other," Mang said. "But a great person as yourself could take care of 2 wives. They would be company to each other while you're away hunting," said the chief. "I do not need another wife," said Mang, "but I would guess that the name given to your daughter is one who thinks highly of herself," said Mang, smiling at the insult in the name. Now the chief did not listen to the name Mang gave. Mang had guessed the name, and he would be the husband of his beautiful daughter. Chief Belly Showing said, Good. Mang, your guess is closer than anyone's. I declare you..." And before the last words were spoken, Chachiskashi shouted, "Her name is Kakanina Kachi, she who has the gift." At that moment there was not a sound to be heard. All was still as still could be. The name Chachiskashi spoke had to be the right one, from the looks of Chief Belly Showing and his daughter's faces. "No!" screamed the chief's daughter. "You creepy little bird! How did you learn my name? I will never marry you." Then she ran back into the lodge. "I want to marry Mang," she cried. "Ho, daughter, you will do as you're told." turning to Chachishkashi, Belishowin said, "You have won my beautiful daughter for your wife. I don't know how. How could such a stupid bird as yourself win such a wonderful gift? But I will honor my word. She is yours." "How dare you call me stupid?" said Sandpiper. "Just because I'm different from the other birds does not make me stupid. Think about this. O great chief, I am the one who learned your arrogant and conceited daughter's name, but I do not wish her to be my wife. What I would like, no, demand, is to be treated as the other birds. I've never been any less a bird than the others. Because I do not like my feet to get wet does not make me peculiar. From now on, I must be treated with respect, or I will marry your daughter, for spite." The chief said, "I always thought you were a bright bird. I really respect you." Then he turned to Mang, but before he could speak again, Mang said, "Chachishkashi, truly you are one wise sandpiper. Let me be the first to say, I accept Chachishkashi as an equal." To the chief, Mang said, "Only Kachishkashi discovered the name of your conceited and arrogant daughter. Now he has refused to take her to wife. That sets him apart from all others here. Not only is he wise, but very bold. I would be very proud to be called the friend of Chachishkashi, Sandpiper. Because he does not like to get his feet wet makes him different from me, but no less a bird." Mang the loon smiled and continued, "O great chief, I too refuse your daughter for wife. I am quite happy and satisfied with the wife I have. You know, there is more to marriage than beauty. Besides, your daughter, like you, is too devious, arrogant, and conceited for anyone to marry." Ho? Glooskap is a being that was put upon the earth to rid the earth of all the creatures and monsters that would bring death and destruction to the people that were coming to live on the land. Now, Glooskap knew many things, but there were some things that Glooskap did not know. This is a story of one of those things that Glooskap did not know. This story is also told to honor the women. In the long ago time, before all things were created, Glooskap lived deep in the forest with Grandmother Woodchuck. Ho! One day he entered the lodge of Grandmother Woodchuck. Sitting down, he said, "Oh, Grandmother, I think it is time I went away. There is nothing left for me to do. I have bound up the Wind Eagle, but I let him go again. I have defeated Aglibimu, the water monster, and gave back the fresh water to the people. I have captured all the animals of the forest and put them in my game bag, but I let them go again. I defeated the old evil sorcerer, the grasshopper, and have given the tobacco back to the people. There is nothing I cannot do, no one I cannot defeat. It is time I went away." Ho! "Oh, but grandson," said Grandmother Woodchuck, "there is still one mightier than you." Glooskap jumped up and said, "What? Where is this one? Tell me. I will go and challenge him now." "Well, if you must," said Grandmother Woodchuck, "go to the village of the people. There, go to the lodge of Nagawis. Ask for one Zidzis that lives there." Ho! Well now, Glooskap left the lodge of Grandmother Woodchuck, saying to himself, "No, there cannot be one greater than I. I will go and defeat this Zidzis." Ho! Making his way through the forest, Glooskap came to the village of the people. As he walked into the village, a young woman came near, saying, "Greetings, stranger. How may I help you?" Glooskap greeted the woman and said, "I am looking for the lodge of Nogawis and one Zidzis that lives there." The woman pointed to a lodge, saying, "There is the lodge of Nogawis and Zidzis whom you seek, and you're in luck. Zidzis has just woke up, or else you could not see him." Glooskap thanked the woman, and as he made his way toward the lodge she indicated, he was thinking, "I'm in luck. Zidzis has just woke up, or else I could not see him. Truly, this Zidzis is great and powerful. He makes himself invisible while he sleeps, so no harm can come to him. I must watch him very closely and learn the secret of his great power." Ho! He came to the lodge, and then he scratched on the door covering. From within the lodge, a friendly voice said, "Enter." Glooskap entered the lodge, and there on the other side of the fire, burning in the center of the lodge, sat a pleasant-looking woman, smiling up at him. "How may I help you, stranger?" the woman asked. "I am looking for Nogawis and one Zidzis that lives with her," said Glooskap. "I am Nogawis, and there is Zidzis whom you seek," said the woman. Glooskap looked to where the woman pointed, and friends, let me tell you, he saw the strangest-looking human being he had ever seen since being upon the face of the world. This being had no hair, no teeth, and was round and soft-looking. It was only so tall and had no clothes on. Ho! Now Glooskap could not believe what he saw. He said, This tiny, helpless-looking thing is mightier than I, the great Glooskap? He has only made himself look small to try and confuse me. I must watch this one very closely and learn the secret of his great power." Then he sat down next to the bed Zidzis was on. Ho! Zidzis paid him no mind and crawled off of his bed. Then he began to crawl around the floor of the lodge on hands and knees. Glooskap thought, "Aha! I'll do whatever Zidzis does, and that way I'll learn the secret of his great mystery powers." So the mighty Glooskap got on hands and knees and crawled over the floor next to Zidzis and said, "Anything you can do, I can do better." Ho! So there the two of them were, crawling on hands and knees, the tiny Zidzis and the great and powerful Glooskap. Ho! Suddenly, little Zidzis sat up and began playing with his toes. Glooskap crawled over next to him and said, "I told you, anything you do, I can do better." Zidzis paid him no mind as the mighty Glooskap pulled off a moccasin and began playing with his own toes. And there they sat, the tiny Zidzis and the powerful Glooskap, toe-playing. Ho! Well, in a short while, little Zidzis pulled his little foot to his mouth and began to chew on his big toe. And the great Glooskap said, "I said anything," as he pulled his foot up and began to chew on his own big toe. And there they sat, little Zidzis and the mighty Glooskap, toe-chewing. Ho! Now, in a short while, Zidzis crawled over to his bed. He reached up and took down a small leather turtle that had been made for him, and began to chew upon it. The great and powerful Glooskap jumped up. Pointing at Zidzis, he shouted, "Ha! That is his medicine piece. That's where he gets his power from. All I have to do is take it, and I have defeated him." Ho! So Glooskap went to where Zidzis sat, and reaching down, he took the little leather turtle from Zidzis. And you know what Zidzis began to do? He began to cry and wail, a most horrible noise that Glooskap had never heard in all the time he had been here upon the earth. Ho! Be silent. I have taken your medicine piece, I have defeated you," he said to Zidzis. But Zidzis paid him no mind. He just cried louder. Then Glooskap began to sing a powerful song, and for miles and miles around, all was still as still could be. There was not a leaf stirred on the trees or a ripple on the waters. But from the center of the village, there was a powerful singing and a very loud crying going on. Ho! Finally, Glooskap could stand it no longer, and he shouted, "Is there no one who can do anything with this horrible being?" Now Nagawis had sat watching all of this. She leaned over and took the crying Zidzis and placed him on her shoulder. Rubbing his back, she sang him a lullaby, and in a very short while, the terrible Zidzis was sound asleep, and the great and powerful Glooskap, he left the lodge very quietly. Ho! Glooskap returned to the forest and to the lodge of Grandmother Woodchuck. Sitting down, he said, "Oh, Grandmother, you were right. Zidzis is more powerful than I. I could do nothing with him. Yet there is one still more powerful than Zidzis, and that is Nagawis." For it was on that day that Glooskap learned the greatest force on the earth is that of Nagawis, the mother, the one who has the power to bring life into the world, to raise it with love, care, and understanding. And so this story is still told by the people, for the people, to remind us men from where we came, and to teach our young sons to always honor their sisters and their mothers. Ho! In the time before all things came to be, the people of the Northwest moved by the waterways. It was easier, faster, and because the forest was thick and hard to travel through. Now on a certain day, in this long ago time, a young girl wandered deep into the forest from her village. Coming to a body of water, there the girl met a family of the loons. She stayed to play with the loons and soon had forgotten the way home. The loons kept the girl several days. During that time, they taught the girl many songs and other things. Soon the day came that the loons told the girl she should return home. But the girl became frightened because she knew she could never find her way back to her village. Then the loons told her to listen to their call as she traveled, keep it behind her, and she would find her way home. And so she did. Now the time passed, and many years later, the little girl was now grandmother. She had never returned to visit the loon family, and she had forgotten all they had taught her except the songs. On this day long ago, Grandmother had taken her two grandchildren out in a canoe, but as they moved out over the water, a thick fog blew in from the north and swept up behind them. There Grandmother and the two children were lost in the fog. Suddenly, there was a splash of water, and then more splashes. They seemed to be coming closer. The children thought it was a water monster coming to get them. But Grandmother knew it was not a water monster. She knew it was enemy hunters from a tribe far to the north. If they were caught, the children would never see their family again. Quickly, Grandmother had the children quiet and laying down in the canoe. They listened as the other canoe passed in the fog without seeing them. The problem now was, how would they get back to land and the village? Then Grandmother began to sing a very strange song. The children knew all of her songs, but this was a different song. The children raised up to look at Grandmother, but she was not there. In her place sat a giant loon. The great bird spread its wings, and up over the canoe it circled. Then it flew off into the fog. The children were frightened, but in a short while the loon returned. The children knew the loon was helping them. They made their way back to shore following the loon, and it led them safely back to their village. For it is only the loon that can see through the fog. Now it was when grandmother was a little girl staying with the loons that she learned that strange song. Use it only once in time of need, she was told. For when you sing the song, you will become a loon forever. Now, when the people are in the fog, they listen for grandmother to guide them safely home. Ho! One night, before things came to be as they are, out of the forest came two yellow glowing eyes of fire. Out over the prairie, under the stars that glowed like campfires they came. The moon, a thin silver band, began to sink into the land. Those glowing balls of fire were moving toward a buffalo skull that seemed to have come alive. Ho! There, in the skull, tiny field mice were dancing and singing to the beat of a tiny drum. The small fire burning within the center of the skull sent beams of firelight out through the eye sockets and cracks. That was what attracted the owner of the yellow glowing eyes of fire. The tiny mice were having such a time, they didn't hear the calls of the night bird's warning. They didn't hear the howling and yelps of the disturbed wolves. They just continued to sing, dance, and drum. The tiny drummers beat the rhythm, turning their heads in time. The dancers bouncing and hopping in a circle around the fire, some carrying their tails over one arm. Ho! Suddenly, the eye sockets of the buffalo skull were filled with the yellow glowing eyes of fire. "Spirit of the buffalo!" shouted all the little field mice, and they all fell to the ground as if they were dead. And then Coyote ate every one of them, and he said, "Thank you very much, and thank you for listening." Ho! Osio, greetings, my friend. Welcome to this, another story time. Come, sit and enter with me again into the long ago time, when strange and powerful beings walk the land by many trails. Let us walk those story trails and hear the way things came to be as they are. For Kalooskap, known by different names, had his place in the early days of the long ago time. In the time before all things were created, the water of the great river stopped flowing. The rains in the high mountains did not keep the river flowing. The people that lived by the river now had a hard life. They needed the water. Ho! One day they sent a man upstream to learn the cause why no water flowed in the great river. Many days later, the man returned saying, "The water has been stopped by a great dam, but it is not by the workings of beaver. A strange people live there. They watch over the dam, protecting it. They say their chief keeps all the water for himself." The elders of the village spoke, saying to the man, "Go tell the strange chief we are dying of thirst. We need water. Beg him for water." Then the man left. Many days later, on his return to the village, he carried a bark cup half full of mud. The strange chief says this is all we get. No more. Ho! The people of the village became very angry. They wanted war with the strange people. A war party was formed and left straight off upriver to the dam. But before they could attack, a great horrible water monster rose up out of the water. The warriors saw a mouth so large it could swallow a moose, a huge round yellow belly, and long fingers that crushed all the warriors but one, who escaped and returned to the village to tell what happened. "How can we overcome such a great beast?" asked the elders. "Our women cry over their loss. Many more will suffer if we fight this terrible being. What can we do? Who will help us?" Then one of the elders that had sat quietly said, "We must pray to the Creator. He will pity us and send help." All agreed. Ho! A fire was kindled, the tobacco was offered, and many prayers rose in smoke out the smoke hole to the Creator. The Creator heard the prayers of the people and answered this way. He called to Kalooskap, saying, "Go help the people." Kalooskap came in the form of a great warrior. He walked with 2 wolves, one on each side of him. On his right shoulder perched a great eagle. The people knew when they saw him he had been sent by the Creator. Ho! The elder spoke, saying to Kalooskap that a great water monster kept the water, and they had none to offer him to drink. They told Kalooskap of the great dam and the guards of the dam. "Where is the monster?" asked Kalooskap. "In the great pool of water behind the dam," said the people. Ho! So Kalooskap began walking up the riverbed. All along the way there were many dead fish, turtles, and other water beings. After several days, Kalooskap saw the dam. It was built across a large valley. Very deep and large it was. To the guards on top of the dam, Kalooskap called, "I have come for water." Ho! From behind the dam, a deep, low, rumbling sound was heard. Then a loud voice spoke, saying, "Give him none. Give him none." So the guards gave no water to Kalooskap. 3 times did Kalooskap ask for water, and 3 times he was refused. But the 4th time he asked, a bark cup half full of mud was thrown at his feet. "Drink and be gone," said the loud voice. Ho! "Ha!" said Kalooskap. "Now I am angry." He stomped his foot against the dam, and it began to crack. Again he stomped his foot on the ground, and Kalooskap began to grow taller. He grew taller than the dam. He grew until he was able to look down upon the water monster, Agli-Bimu, sitting in the deep water. Kalooskap said, "So, Agli-Bimu, it is you. Give back the water to the people." Agli-Bimu refused. Ho! Taking his war club that was the size of a great pine tree, Kalooskap struck the dam. The dam burst down the crack, and the water filled the riverbed. Ho! Kalooskap then reached down and took the water monster Agli-Bimu in a great hand. Agli-Bimu tried to fight back, but great and powerful was Kalooskap. He squeezed Agli-Bimu until the eyes of Agli-Bimu bulged from his head, and his back was bent. Kalooskap then rubbed his other hand over Agli-Bimu until he was only so big. Ha! Now, Agli-Bimu, no longer will you keep the water from the people. But I take pity on you, Agli-Bimu. You may live in the water from this day forth, and to the people they will know you as the Bullfrog. Ho! Then Kalooskap threw Bullfrog into the river. There he hides to this day. And if you listen close when Bullfrog sings, you can hear him say, "Give him none, give him none." Ho! Now as the river flowed by the village, the people were so happy that many of them dove into the water. The ones that dove deep and stayed long became fish and other water people, always sharing the water, which no one can ever own. Ho! On a sun-bright day long ago, before all things were created, Iktomi was walking across the prairie. He stopped to watch a bird as it flew high into the deep blue sky. The wind blew through the tall grass. No other sound could be heard. Ho! Then Iktomi gave a whistle, and with a leap, off through the tall grass he ran. Not following any path, he made his way, when suddenly Iktomi stopped. His keen eyes had seen something ahead in the grass. He bent low to one side and then the other, stretching as far as possible to get a better look. Slowly he placed one foot before the other. No one could move as quietly as Iktomi. Oh, what was this creature that Iktomi was sneaking upon? Covered with a coat of fur and a very long bushy tail, it was Coyote. He had just finished a meal of prairie chicken and just gotten comfortable to sleep when his sharp ears heard Iktomi coming. Coyote had decided to stay and learn what Iktomi was doing so far from his lodge. Ho! Now Iktomi came to Coyote very slowly. He was watching for a sign of life, but not even movement under the eyelids did he see. He bent low over Coyote with an ear close to Coyote's nose, but not even a breath of air was there. Ho! Dead, said Iktomi. Then, seeing a small feather stuck to one of his feet, Iktomi knew that his next meal had eaten well, and not long ago. Reaching down, Iktomi took the front legs in his hands. Coyote was still warm. This brought a smile to Iktomi as he smacked his lips. He was thinking of the fresh roast he would soon have. Ho! Then, taking the two back legs, Iktomi swung Coyote up and over his head across his shoulders. Coyote was large for Iktomi to carry, and his lodge was far across the prairie. The sweat began running down his painted face, leaving colored streaks on his fringed beaded jacket. Now Coyote was enjoying being carried, knowing how tiresome it was to walk. He lay across Iktomi's shoulders, watching the clouds pass overhead. Ho! Finally, Iktomi stopped, and Coyote felt himself falling through the air. He landed hard on the ground and rolled to one side. Looking through his eyelashes, Coyote saw Iktomi busy at making fire. Iktomi was dancing about, singing one of his dance songs, breaking willow sticks and putting them on the fire. Ho! Suddenly, Coyote felt himself lifted up and swung back and forth. Then once again he was falling, but the air became very hot as Coyote fell into the fire. Ho! With a quick turn and one great leap, Coyote was out of the fire, but his back feet threw coals and hot ashes upon Iktomi. Poor Iktomi! His eyes grew wide as his mouth opened wide. His hands tried to cover his eyes and mouth. Iktomi just knew that a fire spirit had come to get him. Ho! Then with a loud cry of fright, Iktomi fell to the ground. Coyote had now put out the fire on his coat and sat looking at Iktomi. As Iktomi sat up and saw Coyote watching him, Coyote said, "Another day, my friend, not today. But be sure the food is dead." Then off he ran, with his tail trailing straight behind. Ho! In the long ago time, before all things were created, There lived a woman that refused to marry any of the young men of her tribe. She wanted only to marry the son. One day, the woman left the village, saying she was going to search out the son's lodge and marry him. And that she did on the first day. On the second day, she had a child, and he grew very quickly. On the third day, the boy was able to walk and talk. Then the boy asked his mother about her mother and father, that he wanted to see his grandparents, and he started to cry. At once, the woman became homesick. The son, seeing how sad the woman was, and that his son wanted to see his grandparents, said to them, "You may go see your parents. Go along my eyelashes." Now his eyelashes were the sun rays. Down to the earth and to her parents' home went the woman and her son. One day as the boy played with the village children, they began to tease him until he cried because he had no father. The boy ran to his mother and asked for bow and arrows. She gave them to him, and he went outside. There the boy began to shoot the arrows toward the sky. The first arrow stuck in the sky, and the next arrow stuck in the notch of the first arrow. Each arrow stuck the one before it in the same manner until a chain was formed from the sky to where the boy was standing. The boy climbed the arrow chain to the sky and returned home. To his father, the son, he told of how he was treated on the earth, and asked his father's son if he could carry the fires of the sun across the sky. But his father refused him, saying, "I carry many fires. In the morning and in the evening my fires are small, but in the midday my fires are large, and the people seek shelter." The boy continued to ask to carry the fires until his father agreed. The boy was given the fires and told the warnings of improper use of the fires. Early the next morning, the boy started on his path across the sky. But soon he grew tired of his task and lit all the fires. The land became very hot. The trees began to burn, and the people of the world tried to escape. Some went into the water, but it began to boil. Some hid under stones. The ermine hid in a hole that was not large enough, and the tip of its tail was burnt black as it is to this day. The animals that did not get to safety have black skin to this day, but their undersides are white. The son saw what the boy was doing and said, "Do you want no people on the earth?" Then the son took the boy and threw him down from the sky, saying, "You shall be the mink, and future man shall hunt you." The boy fell on a burning log and changed into the mink. His flesh began to burn before he jumped down. To this day, mink gives off the odor of burning flesh when put in danger. Ho? Long ago, before things came to be as they are, the great waters did not move in and out as they do today. Ho? The waters would stay high on the land for a long time, keeping the seaweed and clams and other good things to eat hidden underwater from the people. There were many good things to eat under the water, but the people could not get them. Now a raven saw all this and knew it should not be that way. He stepped from his lodge, pulling his blanket of black feathers about him. Then, spreading his great wings, Raven flew along the edge of the great water. Ho! Far to the northland he flew. Then one day, Raven came to a lodge near the water's edge. Down to the ground Raven came. Going to the lodge entrance, he scratched upon the cover. "Enter," said a voice from inside. Raven entered the lodge, and there saw an old woman sitting. In one hand she held a line that Raven saw went to the great water. "Ha," said Raven to himself, "the old woman controls the movement of the water." Raven sat down across from the old woman, blocking the entrance. Raven had a plan. Ho! Rubbing his stomach, Raven said, "Those clams were very good. So many of them, I had no trouble picking only the largest ones." "What clams?" asked the old woman as she tried to look around Raven and out the door. But she could not see, for Raven had blocked the entrance. The old woman called out in a loud voice, "Did my line break? Has the tide gone out?" The old woman jumped up, and Raven threw dust into her eyes. She was blinded. Unable to see, the old woman dropped the tide line. The tide went out, leaving many crabs, clams, and other good things to eat lying on the ground. Raven gathered all he could eat, as the people all gathered for their needs. They gave thanks to Raven for his help, but many thanks to the Great Spirit. Ho! When Raven had finished his meal, he returned to where the old blind woman sat. She said, "Raven, I know it's you. Heal my eyes." Raven said, "Promise that you will release the tide line twice a day, and I will doctor your eyes." The old woman answered, "I promise to do so." So it is that the great waters move by tides, that the old woman watches over to this day. Ho! One day, as Coyote walked about, he was enjoying the day and the memory of his adventures. He thought there was none other as great as he. Walking in the forest, Coyote met a mother deer with her 2 young. "Ha! What bright and beautiful spots upon their coats the 2 small deer had," Coyote thought to himself. Stopping to talk, Coyote said, "Greetings, my cousin. What beautiful coats your children wear. I wish my children had spotted coats to wear." Now Mother Deer was quick to tell Coyote his children could have spotted coats if he followed her instructions. Ho! She told Coyote to build a fire, that the sparks from the fire would make the spots on his children's coats. Coyote gathered wood and soon had a large fire burning. When he put another limb into the fire, sparks jumped and danced all about. "What pretty and wonderful spotted coats my children will have," said Coyote. Then he put his children into the fire, and they were no more. Ho! So to this day, Coyote chases deer, but he never catches her. Ho! In a certain village long ago, before all things were created, the 2 beautiful daughters of the village chief had refused all offers of marriage from the young men of the village. Now in the sky, Sun and his sister, Star, saw all that had happened and heard their father ask, "Who will my daughters marry?" Sun and Star said they would settle the matter. That night they made themselves of human form and came down to the earth. Now while darkness was still over the land, there appeared at the east side of the village a very old, ragged, and poorly made lodge. It was torn and patched and made of tule mats. Sun had changed his form to be a dirty boy, unable to walk, with sore eyes. Star had become an old stooped woman dressed in rags. When morning came, the people saw the old lodge, and several went to see who had arrived. They came back and said, "Some very poor people live there. The floor is covered with dried brush and grass. The beds made of the same things. Old mats and pieces of old robes are their blankets, and their cooking pots and cups are poorly made of bark. 2 people live there, a dirty boy with sore eyes, and his grandmother, an old woman in ragged clothes." But soon the newcomers were forgotten as the village stirred to life. Now the chief sent out word that a contest would be held to find a husband for his daughters in 4 days, the winner getting the daughters for wives. The chief speaker on the 3rd day said, "Tomorrow morning all shall shoot. Only 2 arrows for each will be allowed. On yonder tall tree an eagle will perch. Whoever shoots the eagle will be the husband of the chief's daughters." On the 4th morning, an eagle was seen, and much excitement was throughout the village as the eagle came to rest in the tall tree. The men began to line up to take their turn at trying to shoot the eagle. Now on the evening of the 2nd day, Sun had said to Star, "Grandmother, make for me a bow and arrows." She said, "You have never used a bow and arrows. How can you win?" Sun said, "I will try." She took pity on him and went to get what was needed. For the bow, she cut a red willow bush and some of the twigs for arrows. The bow was strung with a poorly made string, and the arrows were not fletched with feathers. Now Coyote was there, feeling good because he just knew he would win. But Coyote was afraid he would not get to shoot first. Coyote shouted, "I will shoot first. Watch me shoot the eagle." Quickly he shot, but his arrow struck in the lower tree limbs. The people laughed loud and long. Coyote shot again, but this one fell short of the first arrow. Coyote became very angry. He wanted to shoot all his arrows. The people seized Coyote and took his arrows from him. Coyote became very ashamed, and to this day goes about with his head held low to the ground. When all the men had shot and missed, Sun said, "Grandmother, open the door a little so I can shoot." "First get out of bed," she said. Then as the door was opened a little, Sun shot his first arrow. It missed. Quickly he shot his second and last arrow. The people saw and heard the arrow coming from the lodge of Dirty Boy, but saw no one shooting it. The arrow went straight to the eagle and killed it. Now Wolf was standing near Dirty Boy's lodge and wanted to claim the daughters for his own. He ran to pick up the eagle, shouting, "I shot the bird." But Old Woman Star was faster. She picked up the eagle and carried it to the chief, claiming his daughters for her grandson. The villagers gathered around and began to make fun of Dirty Boy. They called him Sore Eyes and No Walk Boy. The chief knew Dirty Boy could not walk and did not want to give his daughters to such a person. How could he provide food and shelter for them? Then the chief said, "There will be a last test tomorrow. I cannot break my word. The winner will have my daughters." This second test was for each man using only 2 traps to catch 2 fishers, one dark, one light. Should anyone fail to catch a fisher on the first night, he was to return to the village. Now when all the men had left the village, Sun said, "Grandmother, make 2 traps for me. Set one on each side of the lodge door." Star said, "First, get out of bed." Then, feeling pity for Dirty Boy, she made 2 deadfall traps of willow sticks and put them by the lodge door as Sun wanted. The next morning, all the men came back from the mountains, for none of them had caught a fisher. The chief came to see if a fisher had been caught. Now as Star came out of the lodge, there in each trap was a fisher, one dark and one light, each a prime pelt. The chief was glad that Dirty Boy could not walk and had no chance to catch a fisher. At that moment, Star came up, dragging the 2 fishers. "I claim the 2 girls for my grandson," she said. The chief said, "Oh, daughters, I tried hard to save you, but now you must become the wives of Dirty Boy. I cannot break my word. Go now to your husband." The girls put on their finest clothes and left their father's lodge for the lodge of Dirty Boy. They had to pass the lodge of Raven. Inside, they could hear the ravens laughing because the girls had to marry Dirty Boy. The elder girl said to the other that they should go into the raven's lodge and see what the laughing was about. "No," the younger sister said. "Our father told us to go to our husband." But the elder one entered Raven's lodge and sat by his eldest son, and they were married. Her husband was ugly, as are ravens with their big heads. The elder daughter thought it better to marry a raven than to marry a dirty, sickly boy with sore eyes. The younger daughter walked on to Dirty Boy's lodge, entered, and sat by his side. The old woman asked who she was and why she had come. When she was told, she said, "Your husband is sick and soon will die. He stinks too much. You must not sleep with him. Each evening return to your father's lodge, but come here to watch over and care for your husband in the daytime." Now the Raven family was angry at the younger daughter for not coming to their lodge as her sister did. They tried to hurt her feelings by laughing at her. They dressed the elder daughter with the finest clothes. Her dresses were of white deerskin, covered with fine beadwork, shells of many colors, matching elk's teeth, and the finest porcupine quill work. About her neck she wore the most beautiful of necklaces. On her belt she wore a green jade siltstone given to her by the mother-in-law. But the younger sister gave no attention to these things. She went every day to help her mother-in-law and to tend to her sick husband. 3 days, and matters were the same. But in the evening of the third day, Sun said, "Tonight we take our true forms." That night, as the village slept, Sun and Star became their true forms. Then the lodge became a bright white new skin lodge. It was decorated in rich detail, ornaments bright as the stars, streamers painted and tied on the top. The bark kettle and cups became bright copper. Beautiful woven mats covered the floor, while woven, embroidered, and painted baskets filled with nuts, berries, dried corn, and meat filled the lodge. The old woman was a tall, strikingly beautiful woman, covered in clothes of shining stars, her long hair shining with rays of starlight. Dirty Boy was now a handsome man, his clothes as of shining woven copper. His long hair reaching to the ground shone like the rays of the sun. The next morning, the people saw the new lodge and called out, "Some great chief has arrived and has camped where the poor people were. He has thrown them out." When the younger daughter arrived, she was much surprised to see the new lodge, wondering what had happened. Then she saw a woman dressed and covered with star pendants, bright stars in her hair. The woman spoke, saying, "Come in and sit with your husband." Then the girl knew the voice of her mother-in-law. She entered the lodge, seeing only a handsome young man, decorated with bright suns. "That is your husband," the woman said. "Sit by him." Then her husband took his wife to the kettle over the fire. It held a shining liquid. Sun dipped his hands into it and let it run down over the girl's hair and body. There small sparkling stars trailed about her. He told her to empty the kettle on the ground, which she did. A path to her father's lodge formed as of gold dust. Sun told his wife, "This will be your trail to your father's lodge." So it is to this day, a path of gold, a path of love between daughter and father. Ho? In the early times of creation, before things came to be as they are, the birds of the world all looked the same. They built their homes the same. They ate the same kind of food. They are of one tribe with the same song. Now their village was near a small river that the birds would go to for water and to bathe. They ate the seeds and berries of the grasses at the edge, and they enjoyed looking at themselves in the water. One day the Great Spirit told the birds he was going to widen the river with a great flood, that they would have to stay away so as not to drown. The Great Spirit made a pond in a nearby meadow for the birds to use until the river was made larger. Now some of those birds didn't like being told what to do, and they stayed in the village by the river. They thought themselves to be wise, able to look after themselves. Then, without a warning, the flood came. The roaring and splashing of the water caught those disobedient birds by surprise. They were tossed about on the waves until their feathers were so heavy from the water, they began to sink. Their legs too short to touch the river bottom to walk out. Surely they would all drown. But one of the obedient birds called to the Great Spirit, saying, "O Great Spirit, those foolish children, they should not have disobeyed. Let me help them. Give me a way to save my people." The Great Spirit smiled, and the water sparkled. A gentle breeze began to push the water-soaked birds toward the river's edge. The Great Spirit spoke to the obedient birds, saying, "Look at yourselves, then go help your fellow birds." The obedient birds looked down, and there they saw they had long legs, and that they were much larger birds. Then, going into the water with long legs, they were able to save all the disobedient birds. Now these birds with the long legs became a new clan, and they all raised their voices in a new song given them by the Creator. To the other birds, the Creator gave to some long legs, to others short legs. He gave to all different colored feathers and different songs. But the first birds to get long legs, they became known as the sandhill crane, a bird of great courage and wisdom. Ho!